Nope. Don't follow me. Don't look me up.
Even if you did, you'd never find him.
Let me kick it back. 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 Hey boy, right there, what you gonna do if they gonna do you like that? I'm a wild boy and I need to be arrested. Don't catch cases, I just catch blessings.
All right, welcome to episode 49 of Fehr the Burn. I'm here with FUD, and FUD, say what's up.
Hello.
Yeah, it's Slave, that's right. He listens to everything that I say. I'm here with a number one man who has helped me in my life, someone who has always told me,
dreams be dreams.
all right, I didn't hit that exactly how I wanted to, but that's great. Someone who has certainly helped my dreams not just be dreams and come to reality. Someone who I met my freshman year of college. Someone who I consider a brother and a role model and a mentor figure in a lot of ways. Please help me welcome Tanner Morton. Tanner.
Thank you.
He enters majestically. My brother, how's it going?
Living the dream.
Good.
Having a beer. Experiencing my first podcast live, I guess.
Hanging with the boys, man. Hanging with the boys.
I don't get to do this anymore, you know?
Yeah. Tanner, why don't you get to do this anymore?
Well, I'm busy. I
Being a grown
family man, a grad student. I make time to spend time with friends, but it's not very often that I get out and just hang out and, you know, have a beer, hang out with the guys. And
I've been trying to do this with you for months now, dude. For months.
Yeah.
And there was that one moment when you were like, hey, man, this is my last time in rehearsal. Like, we can go. And I was like, I'm just going to bed. And it was like the one time in like 5 months that I was like, the Tanner's was free tonight.
the wife was out of town and the kid with her. So, I remember a lot of Jedi Fallen Order during that week. PlayStation 5 was my friend that week.
That's who you were putting to bed. Yeah, Tanner, so I just, first of all, man, thank you for making time for me on this podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
We're all enjoying some brewskis and just chilling. You are a respectable person, and I'll just say that off rip. This is not a respectable platform, so we are going to do our best to keep you in a respectable and not deplorable light. Tanner, can you tell me, why do you love Pocatello? I know why myself, Chandler loves Pocatello. I know a little bit about why Dave loves Pocatello. Can you tell me, you're from Pocatello, correct?
I am, yeah.
And you love this city, is that accurate?
I do, yeah.
And a lot of people from the city hate on this city.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you love this city?
Growing up here, I think that having lived elsewhere, one thing that I notice about Pocatello and that I love about Pocatello is the emphasis on family values in our community, and this idea, right, that like, yeah, I know being outside of the LDS faith, the conversations that surround it, but just the idea of being willing to help one another out, and the idea that I could smile and wave hello to someone in the grocery store walking around, and I'm not going to get someone rolling their eyes or someone ignoring me or something like that. I like the feeling of community here. I really, really love living in a college town. I think my favorite part of Pocatello is the college culture, and it's interesting because being a theater student, I lived up at the Performing Arts Center. I never got myself to lower campus. Very rarely did I get to lower campus. And coming back as a grad student, being on lower campus with my office there, I'm finding how cool ISU is and how involved they are with the community and the relationships that ISU has with the community. And I think that it's really cool to have young people here in Pocatello. It adds to, when I was an undergrad anyway, we had quite a bit of diversity here for Idaho. A lot of, unfortunately, of those international programs have been, or partnerships rather, have been done away with, or they're less so, particularly now after COVID. But yeah, so I just really like the feel, like the community. Love being able to go see a football game, a basketball game. The arts in Pocatello, wild. It's
Surprising.
incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
surprising.
incredible.
Yeah.
We have in Pocatello, Chubbuck, we have multiple community theaters that just do such good stuff and such different stuff. And I like everything. Obviously there's hit and miss shows. I've been in some of the misses, but
We all have.
Yeah.
But I love the arts. I love the kind of community feel. It's a place where I feel safe raising my daughter, and I feel that she's safe and loved in this community. And a lot of it is the people that I have, right? The community that I have within Pocatello as well. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, can you talk a little bit about like family? Because I've always been really impressed with your family. I'm from a broken family, right? Since I was 6. And you talk about like family being a big thing in Pocatello, as opposed to you lived in Portland for a little bit.
I did, yeah.
Which you would say that family is probably less of a thing there comparatively.
I would say, yeah, there's a lot more, individualistic ideals and stuff like that. And I worked in downtown Portland. I lived kind of on the outskirts of Portland, and made some really, really great friends. But it's, there are many reasons I think that it's not particularly the safest place to raise a kid. And there were things that I loved about it, but we were definitely, it was an interesting and happy coincidence when we moved back here. We didn't know Emma was pregnant when we moved back to Pocatello, when we found out a couple weeks after we got back. And it just seemed like it was the right time for that to happen and the right place for that to happen.
Can you talk a little bit about like why you think family's so important though? And like is the deterioration of kind of some of those family values and like more rise of individualistic values in bigger cities kind of do you think that has anything to do with kind of the political imbalance and kind of what is the opposite word of homeostasis? Like friction that we find today? Do you think that family has anything to do with that?
Yeah, so within political science, there's a lot of sociological research, right, on the way that you build your ideology or the way that you view the world based on how you're socialized through your family. I am an only child, and my parents, I consider my dad my best friend. My mom and I butted heads a lot when when I was younger because she and I are so much alike. But they were really fantastic parents to have, in that they supported me, and there was a lot of love and a lot of responsibility put onto me, and a lot of expectation of like, we trust you, right, to do well. And I think that as time has progressed, we found through this kind of socialization, this political socialization, that generations now are less likely, right, to want to be like their parents. Very typical, right, when we build our world views, and not just politically, but when we view like how we view the world and how we grow up and how we want to live our lives. Generally speaking, it's a mirror of like, okay, what was my family situation like? What were my parents like? What are the values that they imparted onto me? And I think now that there's more pushback on not wanting to be like that, and I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. I think that having access to information is great and huge. Unfortunately, right, like the access to information that we have nowadays comes mostly. Information is coming to younger generations through social media, and it's really easy to get misinformation, disinformation out and about. And so I think having that family unit, and it can be chosen family. It doesn't have to be your blood. But I think it's really important to be able to have those serious conversations and to have kind of that tribe, right, like that community where you can build your worldview and bounce ideas and I always want my daughter to know that she has freedom within our home to make mistakes and to ask questions, and I want her to be able to choose things for herself, but I also want her to know where her mother and I stand on issues and what we think is right, and what isn't, because I think that that's important for her to have that kind of role model. And if she ends up disagreeing with us, then, we want to leave that space for her to question us, but be able to come to us with those questions and be able to kind of work through it in a safe way. What's funny about that family, though, is that I feel comfortable saying this, I got the only two sane siblings out of both of my parents. The other ones love my aunts and uncles, but they do be wild. in different ways. But,
We're going to keep that in. Tanner's aunts and uncles are fucking crazy.
You talked about coming to Pocatello with your and finding out you're pregnant.
Mm.
And being grateful for that. Do you think that Pocatello is not a dangerous place? Is it... Okay, this is a multi-part question. Is it not a dangerous place? Is it more or less dangerous from when you were here before going to Portland, like undergrad and throughout your childhood?
I don't, as far as like crime rate and stuff like that go, I don't perceive a huge difference, right, in safety. I will say it's worlds different, right, because I moved towards the end of 2016, early 2017, and the political climate in the world changed, in the country, changed significantly. And so I will say that my family has the privilege of being, markedly white and stuff like that. And so I don't perceive danger that, a lot of folks could. But I will say that we're living in times in Pocatello that are a lot more turbulent than I had expected, and it's not all love. There's definitely hate is alive in Pocatello,
For sure.
and I feel like there's parts of that I hate to have bleed over into Kennedy's life, that stuff that I didn't really have to deal with, but there are things that are going to be inevitable, right, wherever in the country we are,
Right.
and particularly where Kennedy's mother and myself have studied political science. Both of our, Emma has a bachelor's degree in political science. She's looking more international. And my minor is in political science, and now I have a master's degree in political science that I'm wrapping up and moving on with my doctorate. And so I will say that we're kind of more attuned to that than some people who choose not to be. But I will say, as far as safety goes, I feel good about Kennedy being safe in the community.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the big thing. Like, you don't
yeah.
feel like you have to worry about doing stuff with your kid or...
No, I think the world is not as safe as it was when we were kids. I remember that, the classic old man trope, like the street lights coming on at night were my cue to get home or whatever. But it really was the way it was, right? Like I grew up on a cul-de-sac. I had really great friends one who lived directly behind us, one who lived a few doors down on the cul-de-sac, and we all would just kind of hang out. We would be outside. We would be in each other's backyards or in each other's homes, and there's just never really any worry. I'd get up, walk out my door, and not come home until the evening, and very rarely is it a matter of like, oh, check on where the kid is. It's like, he's at one of these houses. He's fine,
he's doing something.
Yeah.
You were, as they call, a latchkey kid.
Yeah.
As a kid.
Would
were a real
you
latchkey kid.
Would you let your daughter do that same sort of scenario, or would it depend very much on, like, if you were in exactly like a cul-de-sac type situation where you knew your neighbors, like?
Yeah, I think it would very much have to be that same situation, right? Where I knew my neighbors, I knew exactly kind of the route she was taking, where she was going. But I am a lot more careful. I think we have to be a lot more careful in today's age. And so...
Well, because that cul-de-sac life is a very specific life. My stepmom lived in a cul-de-sac, and so when we go visit her, I was the same thing. We're all just in each other's houses and backyards, because I don't know. There's many things that put you closer as neighbors than living in a cul-de-sac together.
No, yeah, and it's a really cool. I mentioned earlier community. It's a really cool community to have. I consider those people my family, and I would love for Kennedy to be in a situation like that. In today's age, we are more worried about our kids, and I think that, Emma grew up in a very similar experience, and she grew up in the South, and I don't know that it was a cul-de-sac experience, but it was very much like she and her sister would be out running around and having fun and stuff like that too. And so I think that Emma wants to live in a Hallmark movie. Like she
Yeah.
she wants to move somewhere to a Hallmark town and have Kennedy running around, and like she wants life to be a Hallmark movie.
Is she from Oregon?
Emma's not. She kind of moved around. I think she was born. I'm sorry, Emma, if I get this wrong. I think she was born in South Carolina and moved very shortly after to Virginia.
Okay.
And grew up in Virginia. And she moved here when she was in elementary school. Her mom married her stepdad and moved here. Here being Caldwell.
Okay.
And so she grew up in Caldwell for the most part and went to Caldwell for school and worked in Caldwell at the YMCA as a lifeguard.
So yeah, she grew up in the fields then. Like
Yeah,
if she was
yeah.
in Caldwell during that time, because there was like nothing out there. It was a lot of open field.
Right, and she was in kind of one of the new developments where literally nothing behind them.
Right.
There weren't more houses behind them. So she was very much that way in Virginia growing up. And then I'm sure it translated over here. Her, Emma's mom is just so wonderful and such a fantastic mom and very much encourages, playtime outside. And like she bought Kennedy a water table where it has a bunch of little cool features that we fill it up with a hose, and she's very much get outside, play around, get dirty in the mud, like have fun, be a kid kind of parent. And it very much is translated over to Emma. It's really neat. Yeah.
That's amazing because you don't see that at all today. I mean, today's society is completely flipping to kids staying inside and things are looking like what's that book? Fahrenheit 451, 454, 458,
451.
451. I was like just throwing out 450s until I got it right. 420, yeah.
Wait, hold on. Why does it look like that book?
Because they're surrounded by screens. Like in that book, like people like walk in, like they burn all the books, and like they walk into like big emporiums, and everything is like surrounded by screens. So when you go into our house here, screen. There's a screen on your phone, there's a screen on Tanner's phone. So my sister has two kids, the little older than Kennedy. Obviously, Kennedy is a baby. I just met her yesterday. She's adorable. But my niece and my nephew's like 13, 14. My niece is like 8, 9. And my nephew is addicted to the internet.
Oh my God!
It's so bad. My question is, how are you and Emma going about raising your daughter in this world that is less of what her mom is teaching, right? Mm-hmm. And like, how are you guys like planning on going about dealing with technology while raising or having a family?
Yeah, we there's been a lot of conversation amongst us and amongst our parents, and one cool thing that Emma's family did that translated over to us is both Emma's mother and father chose godparents separately, right? And so they knew where Emma would go if, God forbid, something were to happen to them. But she had godparents on her mother's side and godparents on her father's side.
Oh, wow.
And the godfather that I've chosen for my daughter is very much no screens. Like if I'm raising Kennedy, it's going to be puzzles and coloring books and shit like that. And we don't quite lean that far, right? Like I think that there's some really cool media out there and some really cool animated movies right out there. And so she gets movie time, and we will. Alexa is her best friend. She'll listen to song after song, and very much a musical kid, and likes to dance and sing and have fun doing that kind of stuff. As far as movies go, she does get screen time. It's just a matter of like ensuring that the screens aren't raising her, so to speak, right? Like we don't incentivize like, oh, you're being bad, let's put a screen in front of you so you stop yelling or screaming or being a 2-year-old.
Using it as a pacifier, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we very much are like, we have screen time, and it's not necessarily dictated like, oh, from this hour to this hour on these days is screen time. It's just we'll wake up in the morning and sometimes turn on a movie for her, or we will wind down in the evening and have something. Emma and I like to watch television, and we'll have the screen on. So we definitely have that. We just make sure that there's a lot of playtime, and she has a lot of bigger toys in the house that have like she has a table in the house that opens up and has all kinds of cool interactive toys. Emma's best friend Hannah, who was the maid of honor in our wedding, she is an occupational therapist.
Okay.
And she gives Kennedy the most awesome gifts all the time. All of these interactive things that are designed for Kennedy for her age group, right? To develop fine motor skills and critical thinking skills and working things out. And so Kennedy has a really cool base of friends and family who get her everything she could want. And so she has a lot of fun doing things other than screens, but we definitely don't keep them from her either. I mean, the other day, she was video calling with her aunt Maggie, and somehow managed to pull up Disney Plus on Emma's phone, pull up a movie, and screen share the movie with Maggie.
Holy cow.
They were watching a movie together.
Your daughter was able to do
my
this?
My 2-year-old daughter did this, and we don't know how to do it.
Dude, we're
I don't know
doomed.
how to do it.
We're doomed.
Yeah,
That
So
generation
doomed,
And I don't-
dude.
that-
I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah, we don't. Emma and I have no idea, and we couldn't get the damn thing to turn off either. Like we were like, "What is that?" She somehow like locked the screen or something. So, so yeah, we watched most of Moana. I think it was because our 2-year-old is a genius and outsmarted us.
That's
so.
crazy. That's wild.
So I guess that begs the question: are you gonna try to push her into theater or into coding?
Yeah. Well, Emma was very into swimming.
Okay.
When she was a youth, she was on a bunch of swim teams, and she was looking at swimming collegiately. Got hurt her senior year, and didn't end up doing that. But so we started Kennedy swimming pretty young, and that's something that we could see her doing. I think based on how much she loves to dance and sing and move around, I think theater is something that we'll try her on. Let her give it a try. But I'm very much aware that theater is my passion and my self-care, and I would love to get Kennedy involved in that. But I also know that, I can't force that on her if that's not something she wants to do. But like, people ask me all the time, what's your dream role in theater? And my dream role, honestly, I would love for Kennedy to play Peter Pan and me play Captain Hook. Like that would be the acting dream.
That's fire.
And I have those kind of goals for us. If Kennedy were to get into it, I'd love for her to play like Annie and me play Warbucks or whatever.
Right.
I just think it'd be so fun to act with my daughter and to share that, but definitely something I don't want to force on her. But
Right.
it's something that we'll try down the line and see what she thinks. Yeah.
When did you get involved in theater, Tanner?
I was about 8 or 9. There was a theater company coming through, and they were doing The Nutcracker, but it was a play version of The Nutcracker, and it was a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
There's out in Chubbuck, there's this old, I think it's like a Taekwondo studio is the most recent thing it was.
Amazing.
But it was an old warehouse. It's green. It's very notable as you're driving through Chubbuck. And we would go there to rehearse, and they had like 9 or 10 space heaters in this room. Like the place could have gone up in flames any moment. And we would gather there, and we had like 75% of the cast drop out through the process and recast people. I got cast in one like minor role and ended up playing 5 or 6 roles, my first play ever.
Nice.
And we performed it on the Fraser stage, Fraser Hall.
Wow.
And it was a lot of fun, and I kind of got hooked there. And then I had been playing Little League baseball at the time, and my best friend on that Little League team did shows out at what is now the Palace Theater. It was a Mystique Theater.
Yeah.
And he was doing auditioning for Peter Pan. And I went out there to audition to hang out with him, and that was my first musical and my first big role. I played John, who's Wendy's brother with the top hat and the umbrella. And that was my first really big introduction to like an organized good theater experience.
Yeah, not an absolute dumpster fire.
Right, yeah. So so got started that way, and found I loved it. All of my friends on that cul-de-sac played soccer. I never really got into it. I played some basketball, did some Little League baseball, but about the time all of my buddies and I got out of 8th grade, and all of my friends from the basketball team hit the weight room and started, getting ready for JV basketball and, freshman team basketball, I started steering more towards the theater room and just stopped playing, and really focused on theater. And it's just a form of self-care for me. It's always been never something I want to do with my life professionally. It's always been something that's just how I take care of myself, how I keep my mind right, and just really enjoy the process and the script analysis and the character building. I don't even know that the performing is something that I would say is in my top 10 favorite things about theater.
Wow.
Did you ever have a point where you were like, I could be an actor, or has it always been? Yeah, it's kind of just.
Yeah, we I talked about it with Emma, and it was like, this is something that we could do. Part of it has been that I was behind the curve, right? So I did my bachelor's in theater at ISU with you guys, and there are people there who knew that theater is what they wanted to do with their lives, and they busted their asses to make sure that they would position themselves well. And I never really applied myself in that way because it was never something I knew I wanted to do professionally.
Right.
I, at the time, had wanted to go into counseling, right? So I was looking at the marriage and family counseling program at ISU. They said I could get my undergrad in anything I wanted. And I got scouted out of Century High School by one of the theater professors. Came, saw the show, offered me a scholarship. And I started to do that. But because it wasn't my intention, I wasn't applying myself. By the time I really got to thinking about doing the thing and trying to be an actor, I had already let a lot of opportunities slip past me that way. And I found when I moved to Portland, I did act and get paid to act a couple of times, but it was directing that I really fell into there, and directing, which I was terrible at in the theater department, but it was directing that I found that I loved, and I was working as the interim artistic director of sorts for a youth theater out there. Directed a few shows for them and directed at a few of the community theaters, and was really, really enjoying myself on top of acting, being able to do the directing portion of things. And that's translated since I moved back here to Pocatello. I've joined the board of West Side Players here in Pocatello, that community theater, and I've gotten to direct a show for them. And we'll be directing another one coming up this summer. So that's something that I've really found I have a passion for, and something that maybe I have more of a knack for now.
Did you know about the ISU theater department in high school? Like, were you aware?
I was, yeah, I knew about it.
Were you like, oh my god, this is so good? That's how I was, dude. The first, because I'm telling you, I came during Waiting for Godot, man. That's the first thing I saw at ISU, man.
Good
and I
show.
remember where I was. I can tell you, seeing Tanner on that stage taking off that boot, man. And I was like, I gotta come here, dude. These people know what's good. And like, I came during All State Choir during that, and that's around the time they're doing Guys and Dolls.
Oh, okay.
In the Bice line. I didn't come for rehearsal. I didn't see the rehearsal or like the show or anything, but I remember just like seeing the stage when they were putting it up, and like the Hollywood, like not Hollywood, but like the New York, like Broadway signs, bam, bam, bam. And I think I saw Jack Johnson. I think I remember seeing Jack like walk in, and I was like, that guy looks like an antelope. All love to Jack Johnson. He's an angel.
He's an angel.
So the building is relatively new, right? And it was there. The Performing Arts Center is nationally ranked as one of the most beautiful performing arts centers in the country. I knew the facilities were incredible, but I came into the theater department during a pretty significant shift in the theater department. My first year was also the first year of our the head of the acting department, Vanessa Ballum, and her husband, Stefan Espinosa, coming in. And so there was a lot of shift happening, a lot of change happening, and it was a much smaller program. And so I knew about the department. I hadn't seen a lot of shows. I think the one that I saw, I went with my English class or one of the acting classes at Century, and we went and saw Into the Woods. I remember going and enjoying it and seeing it, but not being like completely enamored in the way that you're describing. I think that what really ended up happening is I knew I wanted to be a counselor. I knew I wanted to go that way. They said I could have an undergrad, and I was the president of the theater club at Century High School, and we would do the one act competition at ISU. And that's where I auditioned for my first scholarship. And they had recognized me. My senior year, I got the opportunity to play a lead in a production of The Government Inspector at Century. And Norm Schroeder came and saw that. And he's the one. Yeah.
So you're telling me Norm Schroeder recognized you from a high school play he saw you in?
He came to the high school play to see me in the play, and told me he wanted me to come to ISU.
'Cause-
That dude has had my back from day one. Like, I love Norm.
Let me tell you something. I saw this guy a week ago, and he did not know who I was.
That's fucking illegal.
It was wild, dude. He was like, I know you. It's like, yeah, David. He's like, oh, we've met before. Chandler was like, no, this was John Proctor. He's like, oh, that's okay.
Can we direct that show?
Yeah, he was the only actual staff, like faculty member director that I worked with besides Vanessa in my final year. But he was the only one that ever actually cast me. Thanks, Norm.
I was also going to ask, is Norm Kennedy's godfather as well? That's the question I had earlier.
The Godfather.
He's
No,
like,
Norm
she'll
is-
be reading Shakespeare and doing puzzles and hanging out with me.
That sounds about right. No, Kennedy's Godfather is actually my friend that I met the only summer I ever did summer stock theater. After my freshman year at ISU, during my freshman year, I auditioned for the Playmill Theater in West Yellowstone, Montana. Yeah. Had the opportunity to go there, and I met one of my very best friends, Scott. And Scott is who we asked to be her godfather. So I call him the Scott Father.
The Scott father.
And that's what she
amazing.
refers to him as. So,
yeah. Tanner, you have been in the ISU theater department since 2011. Is this true?
2012.
2012. Okay. What was your first show there?
So I will give the caveat. I left for 3 years. So I started in 2012 and went through 16 and was gone.
The spring of 2017. Did you leave fall of 2016 or spring of 2017?
It might have been.
You were there for Much Ado. So
Yeah.
you left in the spring.
I left in the spring. Okay. Yeah. And so I was gone there. And then I came back just in time for COVID to hit in full force and close down Bright Star.
Yeah, sad.
My very first show
Hell yeah, Bright Star.
was a Norm show, and it was called Night of the Burning Pestle, and it was all about a syphilited penis.
Oh my god!
It was
No. We're gonna
Oh my god!
say that again.
syphilited penis.
Oh no!
It was
dude.
it was a show that I can't for the life of me remember. It was one of our like old timey shows, like the Shakespeare-y Ben Johnson-y kind of shows. Can't remember who it was, but all of it was like this giant like analogy metaphor towards. It was all dick jokes. It was a show full of dick jokes, and you could imagine who. Yeah.
That sounds like a Norm show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my first show.
I'm so sorry, Tanner.
At ISU. And
I love Norm, dude.
And my second show at ISU was a lot more mainstream. It was Odd Couple.
Yeah, I was actually wanting to ask about that. So Miss Julie wasn't your first show then. I thought Miss Julie was in that first season that you were there.
Oh, it was amongst those. So I did Night of the Burning Pestle, I did Miss Julie, and I did Odd Couple that year. And I think probably Miss Julie came before Odd Couple. Yeah.
So you came out like a little superstar.
Yeah. Well,
This
as I
guy's
said,
got a scholarship, fancy guy.
as I said, it was a much smaller department. One thing that was interesting though was it was all dudes. It was it was a lot of guys in that department and very very talented, good people. And one of my favorite moments of that freshman year was doing Odd Couple with I had Jonathan Zamora and Jesse Arnold and Stephen Moldenhauer and Daniel Sheldon and Adam Grebus. And we had Emily Rankin and Hannah Rankin and Emily Kwame in it as well. But it was a Norm show. And for some of these rehearsals, it was literally have a poker night in the Black Box Theater. And I bonded with those guys, and we just had an incredible time making jokes and hanging out with one another. And it really brought me into the theater department in full force. And I just had such an incredible time doing that.
Those are the shows that I'm most interested in asking you about from all the shows that you've been in, because I was in Much Ado with You later on, and you we're obviously in stuff from 2012 until 2016, but the ones that have always really intrigued me from pictures and from stories and things like that were Odd Couple and Miss Julie. Didn't you guys, wasn't your green show for Odd Couple literally to play poker, but like before, like as people were walking in?
Yeah. So we started the quote unquote poker night about 2 minutes before house opened, and folks would come into the house and sit down, and we would just be ad-libbing, playing poker, and having fun, eating food, and they set it in the 70s, and it was a sunken living room set, and it was just the coolest set, comfortable couches. It was Oscar's bachelor pad, and it was just such an incredible time. It was just so much fun, and it was one of those shows that I learned a lot because I was able to look at all of these guys who are a little bit older, a little more experienced than me, and it was when I discovered that I didn't have to play over the top all the time to kind of get my point across or to prove myself as a great actor, right? Like I just had to live truthfully. And
So are you after Moldenhauer and Daniel and Adam? Are you like post all those guys?
they were all in the department when I came in. They're all a year or two older than me, or three.
Wow.
And so yeah, when I came in, I knew Daniel from when we were kids. We knew each other through church things. And camp stuff. So I knew him coming into it. Adam Grebus and I went to Century High School together. So I knew some of those people coming in. Stephen Moldenhauer, I met through, really when we became close was through Miss Julie. He and I got talking quite a bit and really hit it off that way. And so met all of those guys through that. John and Sierra, John Zamora and Sierra Ramos were in the theater department at that point as well, and they ended up being some of my best friends. I lived with John for a year, and effectively with Sierra because she was over all the time, and so they ended up being some of my best friends I made through the department for sure.
Steve Moldenhauer seems like he belongs at a poker night. Like I always think
great.
of that. Like I think like if I was to invite someone to a poker night to come smoke cigars and get fucked up, I'd probably invite Steve Moldenhauer.
He was our lead in Night of the Burning Pestle. He played the civilian, and
Get it, Steven?
dude, legit. They were like, "So we want you to be an older, kind of balding citizen for this." He went, "No problem." He shaved a fucking bald spot right in the middle of his head and wore it for months.
Everybody born? You can kiss my whole asshole.
That's amazing.
I always want to do that. They asked me to do that when I had fill-in. Lauren left Much Ado like a little bit before it opened, and then they asked me to play the monk and
The
fill in for
friar.
the priest, the friar.
Yeah.
And I was only on for a scene, but like they were making me wear that stupid bald cap, dude. And I don't care about calling it stupid, bro, because I hated it. But in the pictures, like you could clearly tell that it was like this bald cap that just sat on my head with like a different color than the rest of my hair is like in front of my eyes and stuff. And I was like, just let me shave my head. But they were like, but you have a summer stock gig. And I was like, okay, I'll check with them. And I checked my summer stock gig, and they were like, please don't shave your head. But that's gangster that Steven actually got to do that.
Yeah, he was leading that one and did great. And I was in the next year. Daniel Sheldon played quite a few leads while I was there. Adam Grebus played a lead in. They were both leads in the Philadelphia Story, and that was a lot of fun. There's no two ways about it for me. Whenever anybody asks me in all of these years watching the theater department grow and stuff like that, people ask me who's the best actor that's come through ISU.
And tell me why it's Jack Johnson.
Adam Grebus.
Oh,
Really?
that's see, we were talking about
Yeah, I
Grievous
was
too.
talking about
Adam-
But
Grievous,
he didn't get a lot. He didn't do a ton because he was studying education, right?
Yeah, he was doing education stuff. He did. He played a number of different roles. His big one was he was Oscar Wilde. What was the name of
Gross
the
and
show?
Decency?
Gross and Decency. Yeah.
yeah.
And it blew my mind. That dude is so talented, and he worked really hard. And no disrespect to anyone else, but
For sure.
topping that is hard. And we've had a few women come through the department who've just been incredible too. But
I mean, but when you're
mind.
built like like a little bit smaller Jason Momoa, and you can play Puck. You know, because I've heard legendary things about his Puck.
And he was
too.
like hipster Puck. Like he was.
Oh yes, dude.
Yeah, and he was just phenomenal. And my favorite person to watch on stage. And we've had so many great people come through, and the department just keeps getting better and better. But
Where do I rank on
he's
that,
our person.
Tanner?
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
yeah, you're on the list.
Oh yeah, oh
yeah,
yeah,
oh yeah, you betcha, you're on there for
definitely
sure.
on the list. Yeah,
leave it to Beaver over here. Yeah.
you're about top
yeah.
5. Oh yeah, for sure, top
So,
5 worst.
When did you become the father of the department? Right, because it wasn't immediately when I was there, but there was a point where I was just like, T Money's just like department dad.
I don't know when it really happened. I think that at some point there was just some point where most of the older guard before me, right, had moved on and graduated, moved off, and I had all these youngsters hanging out, and it was really about the time that shit started hitting the fan with your guys' class.
Bunch of fucking drama.
And a bunch of
queens.
drama started happening, and I just happened to be someone stable, I guess, that people would come and talk to. And I think part of it was that I just didn't have vested interest enough to take sides in any kind of a dispute.
I was gonna say that's why I trusted you.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like you had an agenda. It feels
Right.
like you actually were just kind of looking at character of people and being, oh, that was probably a bad thing to do, and oh, that was probably a
Well,
good thing to do.
And I just cared about the department, right? Like at that point, it was just like I just want to get things set straight so that we can keep making art and keep getting people out of the department successfully, right? And so I just became kind of a mediator. You know, I had that place where people could come and hang out, and you know, people felt safe over at my place. And so it was really interesting though, because I'd be on both sides of a lot of conflict going on, and you know, it was pretty transparent. Everybody knew that I was talking to one another, and I don't know how successful I ever was at mediating anything, making anything better, but I just was more or less a sounding board at some point. And I think it was just because I cared about the department, and I didn't, I was far enough past the drama. I wasn't so tied in with all the drama and everything going on that I could kind of look with an outside perspective and just kind of give honest feedback. And like you said, I wasn't afraid to call people out either.
Yeah.
If I thought that they were being shitty, you know.
The thing that I would describe it as, man, is a friend. Is I hear you saying
what's
like
that?
a soundboard and stuff, and I know what you mean by that, but like the thing that you've shown me throughout my life, Tanner, is like how to be a friend to somebody. Like seriously. Yeah, of course, man. I mean, like, because you've never picked sides as long as I knew you, and I've known you since you were grown. We talked about this the other night in the theater. You've seen me grow up. I've never seen young Tanner, man. Like, I've only seen Tanner post trauma, dude,
It was
or
a
like
shit show,
going
yeah.
through trauma to become the man that he is today. So that's the thing that I've always appreciated, or even out in Seattle with, you know, when you lent me $120-ish bucks or whatever I needed just to get me home and to get me through some of the stuff that I'm going through right now. You know, you've never been someone who's shied away from uncomfortable conversations, but never shied away from loving people as well. So I think that for me, I would just describe it as a friend. Do you think that your faith has anything to do with that as well?
Yeah, my time in Portland, I spent it as a youth pastor, director of children, youth, and family ministry at a downtown church in Portland, and I've been very adamant my whole life. You know, I've been a dedicated Methodist my whole life. My parents raised me in the Methodist church, and I've been involved. Most of my adult jobs have come through the Methodist church, working in camp and retreat ministries and working as a youth pastor, as I said. And I've never been about making people perfect Methodists or bringing them into the church per se, but it's all about showing respect. And for me, you know, it's about knowing that I've been gifted a lot of things in this world, and I genuinely do feel that God has looked out for me. Things have just fallen into place for me when there is no reason for them to. And I feel like it's my responsibility to kind of put that forward into the world, and kind of be that for someone else who needs it, right? And so I'm definitely not. I'm not opposed to having those conversations. I want to bring people into having a relationship with Jesus, but for me, that's what it was about as a youth pastor, right? When I interviewed for them, I told them, if you want a youth pastor who's going to make perfect little Methodists out of these kids, I'm not the person. But if you want someone who's going to promote personal relationships with Christ, and I don't care what it looks like, right? Like, I just wanted them to have a personal relationship with Christ, and I wanted them to grow in, realize that, humanity is interdependent. We need each other. We need a community. And it's a lot better when we have that community. And so for me, it was just kind of those ideals of like, if you want me to make perfect Methodists out of these kids, I'm not going to do that. But if you want me to try and help them to know what it's like to be, a good person and to have values that are compatible with Christian life, then I would like to inspire that in folks. And that's all that I try to do in my life, right? And I definitely make mistakes, and I definitely get angry and lash out, and I've said the wrong thing a time or two, and
Who hasn't?
haven't been perfect, but have always tried to lead with love first, and just kind of compassion, and knowing that I'm incredibly grateful for the gifts that I've had, and the circumstances I've been given, and if I could help other people with those circumstances, like you were making every effort to get your life right, to get home, to get working and stuff like that. And I saw that, I knew I wasn't throwing money at you to go party in Seattle or whatever it is you were going to do. I knew I was giving you money so that you could
Get gas.
right the ship, right?
Yeah,
So you could right the ship, so to speak. And so it was important to me that I look out for my friends in that way. And, that's always been something that Emma and I have talked about early on, and something that she experiences is that, the phone's always on. If my friends need me, it doesn't matter what time, it doesn't matter when, I'm happy to help out where I can, because I know by and large that people would do that for me if I needed it, and it means a lot to me.
Yeah. It also goes to show that you just a lot of times that you'll get what you put out too. That if you put out love and kindness and respect, a lot of times you'll find people who are willing to give that back. Did you have something? Sorry, I thought you heard you breathe. Tanner, this is the last serious question I have, and then we're gonna play a fun little game. I don't know if we caught this on mic before the audio cut out near the beginning of this, but we were talking about some of the hate that is prevalent in Pocatello right now. Not necessarily, I don't want to say prevalent, but it's definitely present, right? It's there. Do you see any of that hate? Are you moving real quick, Dave? Can you grab a pencil when you're out there? Find like a pencil or a pen, possibly some sort of writing utensil. We talked about hate in Pocatello, and this is a community that both you and I care deeply about. Do you see that difference and the division and the hate coming from people who might share similar beliefs as us? As far as religious Christian, do you think that it's derived from that, or?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm fairly adamant in public about this.
I don't want to say we're doing this. I don't want to say that we're doing this. Sorry, but
right.
Just make that clear.
But on the national stage, right? Like, you see Christianity get a bad rap, and the idea of one of the biggest commandments we have, right? Like, one of the biggest rules that we have is that the Bible says don't take the Lord's name in vain. And that doesn't mean don't say, oh my God. That means don't do shitty things in the name of God.
Absolutely.
And that is not Christianity. When people do that, it is not Christianity. And we see it on the national scale. We see it here. We have people playing morality politics, and I'm willing to be open about that. What we have right now is a movement to prop up one individual and try and give them power. All this person has ever done is lose. And they will continue losing because they're putting hate first. And the movements that they're trying to make and the things they're trying to do, and I'll be specific, the trying to get library bans going, right? Like, trying to say that public school is indoctrination, trying to come in and disrupt reading time with the queens at the library. That's not Christianity at work. That is people being hateful and being closed-minded. And I think that there are a lot of things that can be done. And I think that everybody, one of the beautiful things about America is that we have the right to have our own opinions and to voice them. But we need to be clear about what those intentions are. And I just think that very thinly veiled, attempts to grab power and to do things, frankly, that they wouldn't have the power to do even if they were, in power. Even if you are the mayor of Pocatello or an Idaho state senator, you can't do the things you're talking about. And it's just asinine to reach out. And, I learn in political science, one of my main fields of study has been behavioralism. And it's a kind of this fusion of sociology and psychology and political science. And what I've learned, psychologically proven, right, is that fear is one of the greatest motivators in human beings. Fear is a visceral emotion. And if you can get people afraid, they will do heinous things. That's all it is. That's all the hate is in Pocatello is fear-mongering.
Especially like when a group is afraid. Because then you get like groupthink in that fear, and I feel like that's just escalates.
Right. And you see no substance, right? So you'll see people try and run for office or try and kind of disrupt city council meetings, and they'll say, they'll come with their little pet issue or their pet project, and we see it on city councils and on boards and running for mayor, and it's like, okay, when you fix this one thing about mask mandates, right, with COVID, what are you going to do with the other 4 years of your tenure? What are you going to do with the other, you don't want to govern, you want to talk. And I'm just not here for it. I don't appreciate it, and I'm willing to be transparent about that. I'm very much believe that in order to properly motivate people, fear is one of those things that motivates people in a really bad way. But, as cheesy as it is, there's also hope. And there's also giving people a reason to look forward. And there's just common sense, right? Like, in order to have Pocatello be a thriving community, you have to invest in that community.
Absolutely.
And I'll give you a perfect example as we wrap up. There was recently a special election for a school levy. For School District 25, and this was millions of dollars that was going to go towards our public education, and that's physical plant upkeep. That's money that goes into teacher negotiations. We have a huge teacher shortage right now. This money, very clear with where it was going to go, and it was a levy that was set up forever ago, and it gets voted on every now and then to reintroduce this money, right? Well, you have some hateful people in the community. For a lot of local school districts, the money for school comes from property taxes. And someone had the audacity to get on the School District 25 Facebook page and say, hey, vote no on this levy and you can save $100 to $300 on your property taxes this year. Like, vote no so we can save $100. And I'm like, oh, so you want to trash public education and even if you don't have a kid, right, in the school district, someone who has a kid.
Yeah. Or at least it's the youth of your community.
Right. And the people who will, ideally we want people to stay in Pocatello and to be our future leaders in Pocatello, right? Yeah. And so if you're not willing to invest $100 a year for school education, like, what are you doing? You need to realign these values.
It's $100 for the future of children. Right. How can it not get more honorable or noble than that?
Right. And it's just one of those things, and it will always bother me, always rub me the wrong way as we get into these situations where, believe what you want. Politically, I'm very much for, the robust spectrum of political beliefs, and I think it's important to have open conversation. But as conservative fiscally as you might want to be federally, when you get down to the local level, those kind of elections, you're directly impacting your community, and you're directly impacting the ability your community has to do things. And I just say, it's a good thing it's a special election, right? Where the people that show up, are going to be the people who are invested. If they were people who work for the school district, they were people who have kids who are in the school district, and those are the people who show up and vote. And that's true because there were between 8,500 and 9,000 folks who voted in that special election. Pocatello Chubbuck School District, Pocatello and Chubbuck combined have about 80,000 population-wise. We had 8,000 show up to vote. And it's a special election. It was the only thing on the ballot. People didn't know about it. But the question becomes, right, if you move that onto a November election cycle, if you move that into when people are voting for the president, will our schools ever get funded? If people know what's going on and they have the opportunity to vote no for that to save $100 on their property taxes.
Tanner, I hear you. I gotta piss so bad. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You guys can keep talking. Sorry.
You get there, bro?
How bad is it?
It's not that bad.
Okay, thank God. I thought I got it all the way over. Is it still recording? That's good.
We're having some technical difficulties.
Jen's struggling today, bro.
I gotta pee so bad, dude. I was getting over that fence. We caught that on camera. That's great.
We have a camera going.
Alright, sorry, let me adjust here. A man destroyed me. Blah, blah, blah. Can you still hear me?
I can, yeah.
That took my life. That's really nice to actually, it's interesting to hear somebody bring up points about, local election. Because I've always known, local election, if you're going to vote, is probably more important than, other, kind of bigger presidential and shit like that.
Right.
But nobody has really, I felt ever explained it in a way that I was like, oh, that absolutely fucking, 100% makes sense. And I guess I appreciate how you're describing it because for sure it makes sense of just and I find it very fascinating. You say the people that show up are those people that are directly invested. It's not boneheads like me that are just kind of here for now and then oh, goodbye.
Well, and it makes me wonder, right, where you don't have anybody in the school district, right? So you wouldn't have gotten communicated with from the school district.
Right.
And so I can't blame you for not knowing that it was happening. The question becomes, do the folks who are invested intentionally keep it quiet, right? And have these special elections so that we have a favorable vote? And is that ethical, right? Because at the end of the day, I say, right, you can look at it one of two ways. You can look at it and say, the general population of Pocatello, the information was available, but did they know? Were they aware? My own father didn't. I told him about it and he went and voted, but he said it wouldn't have been on his radar, otherwise, and he's politically engaged.
Right. That's crazy.
Is that unethical?
So
right?
I guess how available was the information, if that makes sense?
Exactly right, and that's where you have to start to wonder, right? Because on one hand, if it's not available, you have the folks who are invested who are showing up and voting, and you're going to get a favorable outcome for, whoever it is that's messaging. And in fairness, those groups that are being hateful could have latched onto something like this. I think generally speaking, they're not going to go oppose something like this.
Right.
However, if this does blow up and the people who are invested do make this a huge citywide issue, the chances skyrocket, right, that they're going to vote no on this and that our public schools will be shafted. So it's just a matter of, where do the ethics come into this and what does that look like? And should we have the knowledge or the information rather more readily available, or is that just screwing us over in the future?
It's also interesting too, because if the information being more readily available is important, but it's also where do you put that information, you know what I mean? Because at this point with social media and everything, the market for information is so saturated. How do you get people to pay attention directly to this thing?
Well, in social media right now, there are studies done, especially on Facebook. You're living in an echo chamber, right? So you're generally speaking, you're seeing posts outside of your personal, even within your personal friend group, you're seeing posts that you interact with in a positive way. So you're seeing people who reflect your opinions more often than you're seeing people who oppose your opinions. And so for people who are invested in this, who are sharing the information with their network, whose newsfeed is it popping up on? It's popping up on people who are likely to vote in a similar way, right? Rather than someone who's going to oppose it. And for me, this is one of those circumstances where it works out happily, right? Like I will tell you, I happily marched on down to my precinct. I had to go to 3 different precincts because they hid mine very well. But I finally got to my voting place, and I happily voted yes, right? Like I want to invest in school district 25 education. And if this information is out there, right, if this comes along during a general election, if it comes along during a presidential primary, if it comes along when we're voting for governor, whatever that looks like, I'm scared that we vote it down. Is that democracy? Sure. But if you can't trust people to, if you can't trust people to invest in their community, like, these are political games that are played, right?
Well, and I mean, if you are to a certain sense trying to game the system by not necessarily making the information all the way out there and just being like, oh, it was out there, but only to, like, those certain groups, like, that isn't really democracy to a certain extent, is it? Like, that sort of, like, kind of messed up game.
Well, I don't know if Tanner said this, but like you're saying on like Facebook, like ads and stuff, you can literally target specific people. Right. Like when I do ads, it says, "Do you want to target specific people?" Yes. Okay. What do you want them to be interested in? So you like literally ask you like so you can go like horseback riding, and then motherfuckers who are like are on horseback riding groups on Facebook will like
horse
get my
girls
ads.
showing
yeah.
up.
Oh yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. It's really interesting to look in, and I'm not I'm not like advocating one way or the other. I'm just saying that it's a conversation worth having.
Right.
And it's a conversation that should be had because, as much as I might not want to agree with voting no on this particular school board levy, or rather the school district levy, is it important that people know that the election is happening? Is it important that people be able in a democracy, right, to voice that opinion? And those are questions that are worth asking, regardless of how you feel about what the outcome would be there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Don't just be these assholes out here that are just
Your milkshake. I drink it up.
That's what people do, man. They want to take away all the education for funding for schools and paying for teachers and everything like that, and they just suck it up for $100 a month. Sweet, man. So,
that one was a stretch.
I think it worked great. I think it's actually my best one at the end of the night. And you know what, Dave?
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
That's what I have to say to you. Tanner, can you do me a favor real quick? Can you double hit that so that it restarts the thing so we can fully video this? Do you know what I mean? No. Can you stop the recording on the camera and then restart it? It's pretty easy. It's just the button on the right. I just want to make sure that we get this next segment filmed. It should only take about 20 minutes if you have the time. It's 10.
I'm going to go piss first.
Yeah, go do that. Yeah, because we all... Don't fall.
As the youth say these days, go piss, girl.
Go piss, girl. Yeah, go piss, girl. That's clean. Don't fall on your way out, bitch. David, do you want another beer? Let me see it. Let me see. The podcast and all podcasts. Not so. Sorry, son. I'll get you. Bam. And let me see if it's nice. Yeah. We're going to do a little tournament of fools.
So we're here with Chandler.
Hi, I'm here.
It's his birthday.
This is behind the scenes. Fehr the Burn. It's my birthday.
That's right.
They can't hear. Everyone who's listening to this is gonna be like, "What the fuck is going on?"
That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Dave's pointing the camera at me. Yeah, man, we're just chilling. Honestly, that was a great hour that we had with T Money. I feel like we got a lot of his personal things out there, exposed him for the great guy that he is.
And for being a part of Freemasonry.
And I'm not going to say that on mic. Do you want another beer, though? I didn't.
No, I'm okay, thank you.
Still got to drive home. Yeah. Don't drink and drive, kids. That is an important lesson that I feel like I am here to tell everybody. You made sure that you are.
Boom 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 boom.
You made sure that yourself got into the shot. Yeah. Doesn't
not that worried
matter
about that.
You're fucking ugly anyway.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah.
ugly.
Super ugly.
Fugly, they might say.
Your ugliness literally kills people.
Yeah, that's my primary way of murder.
All right, I'm feeling a little litty.
Bing bong. You know what time it is. It's Las Vegas, baby.
All right, you know what time it is. Tanner, thank you for being here. We are going to do one more segment, and then we're going to let you go. This segment, Tanner, is called Tournament of Fools. Here's how it's going to go. I'm going to introduce it and say, welcome to Tournament of Fools. You are going to sing the theme song.
Okay.
Okay? That's great. And then we're going to get into it. I'm going to tell you what the tournament is and what's happening. Okay?
Yeah. All right.
Okay, here we go.
That's the spirit.
Here we go. Here we go. You ready? All right. All right. And now welcome to the Tournament of Fools.
Bum. Bum. It's a tournament of fools.
With Tanner Morton.
I like it.
All right, Tanner. Here is the tournament. Tournament of Fools. Your edition is going to be which of these 8 great LA Rams players, since you are a political science major, would make the best statesman.
All right. All
Okay.
right. I'm here for it.
All right. Here are your 8 players, and I'll read them from 8 to 1, so you know. I want to point out I sent these to my brother-in-law, who is the only other Rams fan that I know, to rank them. He didn't get back to me, so I ranked them myself in the kitchen just now. Okay. Number 8 is Steven Jackson. Okay, let me know if you want to say anything about any of these people, but I'll go.
Love that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. 7 is Torrey Holt.
Okay. Okay.
Number 6 is Aaron Donald.
Okay.
Number 5 is Cooper Kupp.
Good.
Number 4 is Kurt Warner.
Okay.
Number 3 is Night Train Lane. You know much about Night Train Lane?
A little bit.
David knows a little bit about Night Train Lane.
Yeah, 999.
Number 2 is Cooper Kupp. And number 1 is Marshall Falk.
Did you have Cooper Kupp on there twice?
No.
He's an important guy, Dave.
Didn't you said his name twice.
Oh, I did say his name twice. Number 2 will be
Technical difficulties.
Orlando Pace. You know Orlando Pace?
I do. We haven't talked about the best Ram, which is Jerome Bettis.
We'll put Jerome Bettis instead of Orlando Pace. Jerome Bettis.
Many would say he was a Steeler. He was a Ram first.
He was in his rookie year, right? He got drafted to the Rams.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. So here are your matchups, Tanner, and you let me know which of these you would vote for in a mayor or governor, whatever statesman. If I disagree, we will have David, the man who knows nothing about football, be our tiebreaker. Your first matchup is Marshall Falk versus Steven Jackson.
All right.
Battle of the backs.
In the vein of, so we recently had an election. I believe it was in Pennsylvania where we had Dr. Oz. Running, and oh man, who was the football player?
Was he running against a football player?
He was.
Oh my golly!
I need my Google man.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, who is
Herschel Walker.
Oh, he's running against Herschel.
He ran against Herschel Walker. They paraded Herschel Walker around as the next great senator of Pennsylvania. Steven Jackson kind of makes me think he'd be a Herschel Walker.
Okay.
And for that reason, I'm going Steven Jackson.
You're going Steven Jackson. Wow.
I am. Oh. I think he would be a good, gruff, out there, kind of, scrappy Republican candidate, I would think. Yeah.
What do you think Marshall Falk would be? Just a very conservative liberal, conservative in nature, not necessarily values.
Yeah, boring. Very straight-laced.
Very boring. No sound bites at all.
No disrespect on the game, but political game he has none. No.
Man, I want to go Marshall Falk, but I don't want to argue with you this early on, so I'll just concede. You're the bigger Rams fan. I'll give you Steven Jackson.
Can we just take a side note? And for sure, Herschel Walker was running in an election.
He was, and
That's
he.
fucking
Crazy.
crazy.
you know
Dr.
what?
Oz was too, man.
You know what? I'm conflating the two. So they both ran, but they did not run against each other. They ran in different states. Herschel Walker ran against Ralph Warnock, and Ralph Warnock beat Herschel Walker in a runoff election. So that one was so close at the end of election day in the midterms that they had to have a runoff election. But it was Ralph Warnock he ran against.
Herschel Walker had some MMA fights too. That guy apparently can do it. Oh man,
Dude, he's one of the greatest running backs of all time.
He's
of all time.
also
freak athlete.
He's also been hit in the head a
A
lot.
lot.
Oh, I can imagine. He's probably hit a lot of people in the head
It
too.
was probably it wasn't pretty.
Brutal.
Okay, here we go. Kurt Warner versus Cooper Kupp.
See, and these were the two I wanted for my finalists.
First round, baby.
It's a tough one.
They're both super likable.
They're very likable people, and they're both very respectful, very diplomatic, no drama. They're both they would have been my finalists. They would have been my favorite. Now, Cooper Kupp is my favorite Ram ever. I'd name my dog after the dude. But I think I am gonna go with Kurt Warner.
Kurt. His story's just more amazing. It's just
an
amazing.
incredible story. Yeah. Did you watch American Underdog?
I did.
When it came out, it is phenomenal.
Is it
Highly
really?
recommend it. Yeah.
Yeah, I should
Great
watch
movie.
it. Yeah. Do you know the story of Kurt Warner, Dave?
He was a bag boy.
He's a bag boy. Yep.
Then he started to play for the Cardinals. Later, played for them. Did good.
There you go. Yeah. That's
Played with my boy Larry.
There you go.
I know things about
Dave
football.
knows. Dave. All right, got Kurt Warner.
He played with the Cardinals later. I don't know if he started. He played with the Rams and then he ended his career with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I trust your opinion. I don't know jack shit. Besides, at some point in his career, he played for the Cardinals with Larry
And very
Fitzgerald.
well. Yeah.
Well, because I think was it the most amazing show on turf? Is that what the Rams were called in the
Greatest show on turf.
greatest show on turf? That he was their quarterback. So
Yeah.
So then and he played in
that-
And I
later.
think he took the Cardinals to a Super Bowl also.
Yeah,
Yep.
against the Steelers, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was gonna say
one of the
'cause
greatest
that's-
Super Bowls of all time.
That's the fucking thing everybody says about Kurt Warner. You know, he started out as a bag boy.
Yeah.
And he's a great analyst now too. He's an analyst on TV and does a lot of the NFL games. And yeah, he's awesome.
Tell you what, he's certainly not better than Tony Romo. Tony Romo will tell you what's happening before it happens.
True.
But he's also a giant prick. Moving on. Night Train Lane versus Aaron Donald. The battle of the defense.
Oh man.
I got a strong opinion about this one, if you can't tell.
I'm gonna go with Night Train.
Yeah, you are. Yes.
No explanation needed. I'm going with Night Train.
You know what he's going to do if he doesn't win.
There was a president in history that they said like kind of he was very tall and would loom over people.
I think it's Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson.
It was Johnson.
Yeah, yes.
Andrew Johnson.
It was President Johnson. Lyndon
Yeah,
B.
The
Johnson.
guy
Lyndon B.
after
Johnson,
JFK.
It was Lyndon B. Johnson, and he would bring interns into the office, and he would shit with the door open, talking to them. He would tread on people's shoes, so he was really tall. He would stand on people's shoes and lean over them and yell so that they couldn't move away from him, back away from him. He
that seems like night train tactics. Right
he
there,
would
really.
I'm very opinionated about Lyndon B. Johnson because he was a shitty human, right?
Yeah.
He cheated on his wife a whole bunch. He was the one rumored to have a panic button in the Oval Office in his desk. He would hit this button, or he would have people outside hit the button, and it would flash red if his wife was coming, so he could get whatever woman he had out. But he passed some of the most progressive legislation as far as
Like civil rights.
rights and all
yeah,
that
but
stuff.
like, wasn't JFK already like in the midst of like putting those in before he got?
I think it was mainly because he was.
Who signed it, Chan? Who signed it?
He was
That's JFK.
I'm pretty. I'm pretty
Headshot
convinced that because Johnson was like the king of the Senate, right? Like he had been a congressperson, he had been in the Senate, he knew how the game was played and how the sausage was made, so to speak, and he knew what buttons to push, what levers to pull. he was a very effective president, and why he didn't run again, right, was because he couldn't end Vietnam, and it haunted him. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm one of those nerds. I've listened to many audiobooks about presidents. There's a really interesting one. I think it's called The Five Presidents, and it's a retired Secret Service agent, and he served for 5. He started with Eisenhower, and went all the way through. Those 5 presidents, right? And Lyndon B. Johnson was one that he spent quite a bit of time with, and he gave so many cool personal stories. Highly recommend that book.
Okay.
It's a great audiobook for driving around. I listened to it while I was driving to the Oregon coast last summer and back, and a really fascinating insight into President Eisenhower, President Kennedy, Johnson.
Was FDR in that, or is that before Eisenhower?
That was way before.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chan, duh.
I'm a history minor. I should know.
Fucking
the only
nerd.
thing that I'm curious, and when we get back to the tournament rules, I thought Lyndon B. Johnson was like low key or high key pretty racist. Is that not true?
So yeah, he did a lot for civil rights, but he also I can't tell you any particular instances, but I've also heard he is pretty racist. As well.
That's what I've heard. But like I heard that it was JFK that was like trying to push those shit through, and then he died, and then Lyndon B. Johnson was like, "Well, I might as well look like a great guy out here now." So
Yeah, and I can't tell you exactly what that turnover looked like, but I know that Johnson did a lot of work with that stuff, and he knew how to work through the Senate or through
Right.
Congress in general.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Jerome Bettis versus Torrey Holt.
Torrey Holt.
Really? You're gonna take Torrey Holt?
Why wouldn't you?
Because Jerome Bettis is the nicest, funniest man on the face of the planet.
Well, there's
People
that.
are gonna vote for him.
But he fucking left to be a Steeler, so fuck that.
Oh my! You just said he was the greatest brand.
Yeah, well, I'm 2 beers in, so there you go. Opening a third, I guess I'm staying a little after that.
All right, I'll concede. I'll concede to that. I might challenge you on these next couple if we come to crossroads. But here we go. What's it called? Semifinals. Steven Jackson versus Kurt Warner.
Kurt Warner.
Really, you're not taking the hard hitting Republican in this one?
It was a good pipe dream, but he had to get up in front of a crowd of people and talk about healthcare policy, and well, he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. So
Kurt Warner just said that everyone could go to the hospital for free, so he kind of wins that one. That's what people want. That's what people want.
Yeah, he's a people pleaser.
Night Train Lane versus Torrey Holt.
Night Train Lane.
Night Train Lane. Night Train Lane. Which leaves us with our finals, Tanner.
Don't make me do it.
Night Train Lane versus Kurt Warner. That's a good matchup because it's arguably one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet versus the guy who will absolutely clothesline you if he loses 1,000,000 times over and probably kill you.
I'm going Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner is just as far as like
Can you look up how big Night Train Lane is?
as far as like who the best Ram has been and stuff like that, obviously different bracket, but when we're looking at who could be a statesman and who would actually like hack it in politics, it's got to be Kurt Warner or Cooper Kupp.
Yeah,
like that would have been
I
my
agree with
ideal
that.
final. I think Cooper Kupp is also would be pretty good at that kind of stuff, but I could see Kurt Warner doing
I can
really
see
well.
Aaron Donald doing it too, though. Aaron Donald's a really smart dude, and like
Very smart dude. Yeah. Kurt Warner is he's a family man and has a lot of the kind of like morals in place and the things that go well with the political game. And he has a really cool story, right? Like a rags to riches kind of story. And so he just has like all the right elements in his background, and the dude never quits, right? Like
ever.
he's a badass. I love that guy.
Night Train Lane is 6'1" and 194 pounds.
Kurt Warner. Yeah, I'll agree with you, Kurt Warner. If he was a bigger dude,
Surprisingly, I thought he was going to be way bigger.
I thought he was going to be like 6'4".
I was
People-
picturing an Aaron Donald kind of.
People say he's all, in the thing it even says he's all arms and legs, so he looks much bigger than he actually is.
He played corner, so that does make sense. He was on the outside, but I thought he was going to be like a Richard Sherman looking motherfucker. Like
Now
super
that
big.
dude could be a statesman if
Absolutely.
if his temper didn't get the best of him.
I wanted to do one of my soundboards. I made the soundboard this week, and I wanted one of those soundboards to be, when you put me on a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's what happens.
I as a Rams fan, I hate that guy, but he is a smart fucking dude. Like, he is a smart man.
I'd argue he's one of the top 10 corners of all time, man.
And he negotiates his own contracts. He's his own
Oh,
agent.
wow.
He's his own agent. Like, the dude is brilliant. He's an asshole, but he's brilliant.
Asshole, but real rags to riches too. Because you got to look at where he's from, right? Because like he's from Compton, but like his family was the people like who around town who were like, don't let my fucking son join these gangs out here. And like Richard had like a 4.3 in high school and went to Stanford on a full ride, and so that dude like worked for everything that he has.
Yeah, and he's a great player.
But I
just hate him because
don't like him.
And then the Niners, so I really hate him.
And he is pretty arrogant on the field. Yeah. All right, man. Tanner, you got anything else you want to send all the people off with here? Anything else on your mind, on your heart? You want people to follow you on socials so that you can.
Nope. Don't follow me. Don't look me up.
Even if you did, you'd never find him.
All right. The reason Tanner's here is because we have a show coming up, so go ahead and come out to the Book of Will at Idaho State University Theater, happening April 14th, 15th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Somewhere around there. It definitely opens on the 14th of April. That's my birthday, and that's what's most important. So, thank you, Tanner, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun doing my first podcast.
Even though you don't know anything, like you said before, now you know a little bit.
Hopefully that was interesting.
You absolutely were. All right, man. Love you guys both, and we'll see you guys later. Keep burning.
I want that old time love, that give me a ring like all the Showtime love, that take me back to our home type love, where I can go put on a movie and just hold my love.